Welcome to the Growth Through Adversity podcast, where men are forged, not coddled. Here we dive deep into the path of true transformation in pursuit of physical, mental, spiritual, and temporal growth. We talk training, nutrition, business, mindset, and spirituality. We embrace strength and we loathe ease. We reject weakness in every form and cultivate power, the will to power itself. This is the rebirth of modern man. Raw masculinity, tempered by reason, virtue, and right action, because nothing of value is earned without sacrifice. Let's begin our apotheosis together. Welcome to another episode of the Growth Through Adversity podcast with your host, Ragnar the Warwolf. What is up, people? So I am back from the moose hunt. We didn't get any moose. We saw a bunch, nothing legal, but I'm getting back into the swing of the work week here. And so I wanted to do our Monday live, and we're going to talk about abs. I got a lot of questions last week in my check-ins about abs. And I feel like a lot of people misunderstand abs in general. So number one, hence the name of this live, abs are built in the kitchen. They're not really built in the gym. Everybody has what we think of as abs is a muscle called the rectus abdominis, which is the most superficial layer of the anterior abdominal muscles, the muscles of the front of your core. It forms that 6 or 8 pack that everybody wants so much. Seeing that is almost exclusively based on nutrition. So if you get down below 15% body fat for men, you're going to see that. If you get down below 10% body fat, it's going to be shredded and veiny and fucking super cool looking. But that's almost entirely nutritional. So you can do all the crunches in the world that you want. If you're 20, 25, 30% body fat, it ain't going to do a goddamn thing for your abs. Now, with that being said, I like to kind of separate the idea of abs and the core in general, right? Because the core has a lot more functions than just looking cool and scoring you chicks at the pool, right? And it's not just your 6-pack, right? It's your body's foundation. It's how your body transfers force from your lower extremities, your legs, to your upper extremities. It's what stabilizes your spine in all positions, whether it's athletics, lifting heavy, or just your day-to-day life. So a good, strong core that's been trained properly is one of your best, long-term investments in overall spinal health. So we're going to talk about the anatomy and function of the core. So the core is made up of 4 muscles predominantly, the rectus abdominis, the obliques, which are the muscles on the sides, the transverse abdominis, which is the deeper layer underneath the rectus abdominis, the spinal erectors in the back, and then a small muscle called the multifidus. And these together form a girdle of muscle around your entire abdomen, and they make up what's known as your core. They have a few primary roles. Number one is anti-rotational. So their job is to resist twisting forces, e.g. if you're carrying an asymmetrical load, something heavy in one hand, your core is going to keep your spine from twisting and getting injured. Same with if you're, anything where you're resisting rotation is almost exclusively your core. So it's engaging in that capacity almost 24/7, right? Or at least, virtually 24/7. Every time you roll over in bed, it's making sure your spine doesn't break. Anti-extension, so resisting arching. This can be built up by things like the plank. The ab wheel rollout is a fantastical one. Fantastical. So resisting extension or leaning back, right? Arching your lower back. And stabilization, probably its most important role, is going to be holding the spine and pelvis steady under load and in virtually any position. So whether you're sprinting, twisting, cutting angles, fighting, doing anything like that, your core is stabilizing your spine and your hips and keeping a good solid foundation in your body. And then, of course, rotation. So rotational velocity is something that's super important in athletics, and that's how much force your body can generate in rotation. Think throwing a punch, throwing a baseball, anything that involves rotation is predominantly the core. Obviously, there's a lot of mechanics involved in that too, creating the force down at your legs and then transferring it through your core into your upper extremities. But having a good, strong core, or a core that's really good at rotational velocity specifically, is going to really help you generate more power and more explosivity in those types of movements. So the core is not just your front abs; it's your whole 360 degrees of your trunk's stability. So there's a few different ways to train the core, right? So, and again, you can do all the core training you want. It's you have to separate the idea of core training and abdominal muscles, right? So, although especially like following the basic principles of hypertrophy, lifting in somewhere in the 6 to 12 rep range, mostly with dynamic type movements and targeting muscles like the rectus abdominis, yes, it will hypertrophy. Yes, it will get bigger. So then when you get leaner, it will show more. I mean, look at bodybuilders. They have freakish looking cores, right? But you should really separate the idea of core strength and the abs, because the abs are just one muscle out of a very important girdle. And there's a lot of different ways to train it. And in things like athletics, training just the rectus abdominis to look really good isn't really going to do shit for you. It's not going to give you any more rotational velocity. And for guys that got bad back, shit like that, it's not going to give you any more spinal stability. In fact, it's probably going to pull more stress on your spine. And the movements that you're going to use to train it are going to cause more stress on the spine. So let's talk about some different training styles that are a little more functional. So number one, isometric holding. If you think of the core's most important job as stabilizing your spine in all different types of positions, then training it to do that, fight like you train like you fight, is going to be very, very effective. So these are going to be things like planks, Palloff presses, farmer's carry, all kinds of different like asymmetrical pressing movements, anything where your core is really having to isometrically contract and hold your spine and your hips in alignment in positions where it doesn't really want to be. It's going to be fantastic for that. So then this is going to build endurance and stability. So this is usually going to be higher rep ranges, more repetition, isometric holding, those isometric holds for longer and longer amounts of time, and just building up overall stability. This isn't going to do a lot for making your abs look cool, unfortunately. But it's going to do a lot for making you perform better and making you a lot less likely to injure your back. So number two, dynamic movements. So these are what you would more think of as traditional types of core training. Things like hanging leg raises, rotational med ball throws, or slams, ab rollouts. These are going to build up power and mobility and are going to give you a little bit more hypertrophy in the abs and are going to give you a little bit more bigger abdominal muscles over time. But really, your core training should be a blend of those two pillars: isometric for stability and function, long-term health, and just overall performance, and then dynamic movements for power, explosivity, and mobility, right? So, and something that's dramatically overlooked in core training is loaded carries. Like, I cannot tell you, loaded carries trigger all the movements of the core, all of the functions of the core in one simple movement. They're super easy to do. Think things like farmers walks, and you can just build off the farmers walk. Then you can do farmers marches. You could do, you could do one hand overhead holding a little bit lighter of a kettlebell, the other one holding a really heavy kettlebell to create that asymmetrical pull on your core and that twist. And there's just a million different variants of different types of loaded carries that you can do that are going to be fantastic for building up the overall stability and function of your core. So again, this is all tied heavily to spinal health. Core strength is going to reduce back pain by stabilizing your lumbaric spine. It's going to act like a natural weightlifting belt, protecting discs and joints. So it's so important. Learning how to use your core too, learning how to properly brace, learning how to use your breath to create a tight girdle of muscle and air to keep your spine stabilized in these lifts is also super cool. Learning the Valsalva maneuver on how to exhale while you're lifting. All of this ties into the core strength too. So a weak core is going to create over reliance on the spine, and this is going to set you up for pain and injury. And it's something that's cumulative. So a weak core is something that it's not really going to get you when you're 20. It's not really going to get you when you're 25 most of the time. It's something that's going to be cumulative over your life. And then eventually one day you're going to go out to grab the paper and you're going to blow a disc in your back and have problems for the rest of your life after it. So you really want to get ahead of this and build your core up and build it up the right way over time, to make sure that it's strong enough to withstand the loads that you're using in your regular lifting. You're going to get stronger over time. You're going to put more and more stress on your back, which is fine as long as your back is correlatively being trained with the rest of your body. A lot of guys don't do it at all, or they'll do a couple of sets of crunches at the end of their thing and call it good. It's very much neglected. Studies show that a strong core leads to better athletic performance and a substantial reduce in injury, especially to the back. So again, if you want to see those abs, if that's your goal, if that's the main thing, the most important thing to you, you need to focus on nutrition. Like 100%, your body fat has to. I mean, below 20%, you'll start seeing the proto abs popping out. You'll start seeing the outline in your little tummy, but it's really going to be getting below 15%, getting closer to 10%, where your abs are going to start really looking spooky and crazy. So a diet that strips the fat and then the training that sculpts the function and the density of the core is what's going to lead to a really good looking core and a really good performing core. So again, this is going to lead to stronger lifts, reduced back pain. It's going to lead to better athletic, more powerful movements. I cannot stress enough, abs are not just for show. They are 100% probably the most functional body you have, muscle group you have on your body. And you don't want to hurt your back. That's not a fun thing. So that's kind of a synopsis of, how the abs function, their basic anatomy, and how to train them and what they do. So if this was helpful, feel free to shoot me a message. Let me know. If you have any other questions about core training, go ahead and hit me up on Instagram at the Beast Within 9. And if not, man, thank you guys for tuning in, and we will be back on Thursday. You guys have a great fucking day.